Good Sunday morning. This is hashtag everyone talking about hashtag everything. I'm Kate Doherty with the Radical Ryan, the practically perfect Penny Ippenson, and the lovely Laura McReynolds. And you know what? Today's show is the first show that we're ever doing where we're actually live streaming it.
Yes.
However, to our listeners, I want you to know this makes me very sad, and I realize this is a Sunday morning show, but this means I cannot make negative hand gestures towards Ryan during the taping of this show anymore.
No,
I am. I mean, there's no more. Before we were streaming, I could do so, but
and
now
we used to say things like, "Boy, you should have seen the middle of the segments between when we, took our pause." Now they're going to see it, aren't they?
Everything.
Yeah, they very much could, and I think it's a bright new day for me. It's a bright, new, glorious day for me.
Because why, Ryan? What do you,
it's
see
just-
about
Do you feel
you?
like less picked on because we?
Yeah, I mean,
can't,
but then again, I think you got this is the fresh new shiny toy, and again, anyone who's here's the thing, anyone who's listening on radio, it's going to sound the exact same because again, the show's not changing by any means.
Right.
But obviously now having the video element, which again, WGEM Smart TV app. So again, if you're driving
Oh
in
my
your
goodness.
car,
How many times are you going to say that and work
I'm
that
just
in
saying,
throughout the show?
you're going to have to. WGEM Smart TV app. Check it out on demand. This is where it's going to live.
He's kind of good at this.
Because again, you're gonna
You can
want to
also
go back
to
and see it.
Downcountry social media.
You go to
too.
Downcountry social media, up at downcountry.com. Again, Kate, what is that?
Up at downcountry.com.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Well, you were
I
I pulled a
hard
U.
time
I
following
pulled
you.
a U because every time, right? Up at
I apologize.
downcountry.com. Kate, what is it?
Up at downcountry.com.
That's exactly it. That's right.
Oh, so
or again,
Wait, so do we go to the website or do we go to the social media?
You go to the social media. You're going to go to, it will be housed on the website, but you go to the social, the radio shows are housed on the website. However, the streaming
videos,
will be on the Facebook page, the Instagram page, I think the TikTok page, all the pages, all the
Nice.
pages,
all the
things.
social.
all the
all
stuff.
the things. But, you know,
stuff.
Ryan, I feel like you actually, for a second there, almost segued in to what I want to talk about on today's show.
You don't say.
I know, almost, because you were talking about how, it was a brand new day for you. You feel, like you're somewhat quasi-protected because I can't make these negative hand gestures at
Well,
you.
actually, before you say that, though, what I was getting at was this is the fresh new toy. So you guys will probably get used to it, and then
we'll forget.
And
it
then
might
I'm
just happen.
It might just
a hand
happen.
gesture might happen. You never know. That's why you got to watch.
I've got to.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
why you got to go to.
after 15 years on the radio, I did let out a curse word about
You did.
Yes,
about
you did.
6 months ago.
Yeah,
was
and then
it?
once you
Yes.
broke the gate,
And
it
I
was
was
like
like,
a
"Whoa!"
gateway. It was like
Because
a
I'd never
gateway.
done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like a gateway drug because
Yeah.
once you did it, then all of a sudden
We all did it.
little bad words started
Yeah.
coming from all of our mouths.
Just
Because
flowing.
your face was full of shock. It was
It was very red too.
It was
very
red.
that day. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, and again, that's why you're gonna want to watch WGN Smart TV app, up at downcountry.com, all the socials for hashtag everyone talking about hashtag everything with, of course, Downcountry, all of it.
Oh my
You're gonna
gosh,
want-
that's so
Because we're
confusing.
kind of
You
fun-
know, my
Plug,
dad.
plug,
I mean,
plug,
you know, my
plug.
dad is sitting here at home listening, going, "What on earth are they doing?" He's like, "Kate, I can hear him right now. Kate, I don't want to hear about the hashtags. I don't want to hear about the hashtags. Just talk." Okay, so Dad, I'm going to talk. So anyway, today's show, what I really want to talk about is we do something really silly with people with disabilities, or at least I think it's really silly. And and actually, I had a really cool conversation with a young man who's a sibling to two people, to two individuals with disabilities. There's a pair of twin sisters. He has a pair of twin sisters who happen to have cerebral palsy and autism, and the other actually has autism. So two sisters totally. And we were actually talking about this because, like, when his sisters growing up, like, he has no recollection of ever not having his sisters be his sisters. So he, like, yes, he knows that they quote unquote have a disability, you know what I mean, technically, but they're just his sisters. So when they act jerky, he calls them on acting jerky. And he said, and I grew up in a situation like his sister with cerebral palsy would have to help brush her teeth. And, but then he's like, the quid pro quo was then she would brush mine. You know what I mean? Like, we'd just be like, that was kind of the way it rolled in our household. And like, when she was being a jerk, like one day she came in and she ate all the cookies or she did something and he was really freaking, he's like, well, of course, I like went after it. It's my sister. Like, how could you do such a thing? And so that kind of led me in to this protectionism piece that we have. And I want to be clear here. It is hard to release some of that. Especially, I mean, Elliot is 17. With Olivia and Ella, I feel protective of my daughters. You feel protective of your I mean, it's a natural. Are you protective of the twins, Ryan?
100%.
Okay, so part of it is a natural, innate, with children in particular, we're extraordinarily protective of them. With most children, as they grow up, it's not necessarily that you become less. It's more like you begin to trust them more.
Right.
And you also become more aware that, like, you're girls, you know, I mean, like, they're going to make mistakes, right, Penny? I mean, and like, while you don't wish mistakes on your children, right, Laura? Like, now that they're older, like, you know and accept that they're going to do good things and they're going to do bad things. They're going to live a natural life experience. And quite frankly, part of your job as a parent is you start prepping your typical kids for that. I mean, like, that's like your job as a parent, right?
Well, basically, almost like daycare, preschool. You start teaching them how to be independent. Part of independence means.
Well, I'm thinking about the grandbaby. I mean, if you're a little baby and you get up and you're learning how to toddle, let them fall. I mean, it starts immediately.
I mean,
That's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah, and you try and back off enough that they don't fall into anything,
Right.
But you do allow it. You allow them to
The
experience.
diapers got good padding.
Failure,
Right.
and diapers do have good
Yeah,
padding.
they do.
And all those things. And so it's very interesting because one of the things, and this is going to be like a twofold. This really is going to require a lot of little Penny Psych and a lot of Laura Analytical and a whole lot of Ryan Mouth. So,
Wow, that took a turn.
Well, so-
already.
well, but
cow.
it's true.
So much for the shiny new thing.
Yeah. A lot of-
I did not make a negative hand gesture.
No,
I did not make a neg.
Words hurt.
You do
Okay.
so well. Go on.
Okay,
Go on.
so anyway, however, one of the things when it comes to children with disabilities as a whole is people are more protective of them. And part of that is by the nature of being medical fragile. You know what I mean? Like that's a piece. Like I totally understand that. Like I'm not saying to ignore, medical fragility in any way, shape, or form. But sometimes we go above and beyond that. And we do things like we glue a human to them for the duration of their school days. And I know this is going to shock you, but once they get past the little kid stage, most children do not enjoy hanging out with children who have a grown-up attached to them. It interferes in the social interaction process.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're saying is, the kids will not want to hang out with a kid who has an adult with them at all times, like in a school setting.
Yes, in a school setting.
Because you have this adult. You want to have this kid-to-kid relationship, not with the adult hovering over you.
Yeah, I mean,
the adult's hovering over you if he's having to take care of or be attached to that kid.
And it's something that I see sometimes, like I'll walk into different schools, and sometimes, here's the deal, sometimes there's a medical necessity reason why a grown-up is sitting next to Johnny, Billy, Bobby, Susie, whatever. And other times there isn't, it's just what they've always done. And they're, this is my child, I'm supposed to be with my child. In this case, the best thing that you try to do is you try to work yourself out of a job. You want that child to be independent. And quite frankly, if you're looking at the life sphere, like if you want them to go to John Wood Community College, like in the College for Life program, they don't go to that program with a para unless you're paying for that on your own.
So let's add to it. Not only is it the kid will not go up and talk to the kid who has the adult with them, the kid who has the adult with them, it's going to be hard for them to go talk to another kid too.
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
It's both ways.
Because you're very cautious if you're that kid.
And here's the deal. So it interferes in the peer-to-peer interaction. Now, having said that, you say, well, Kate, like, I do understand that there are times that it's necessary. But what I'm also going to say, and I'm going to flip it on a coin here, when you have a child who is predominantly nonverbal, who cannot explain to their parent what has transpired throughout the day, from a parent perspective, you take that normal protectionism you have as a parent, and there becomes a fear. I mean, it is a worry. It is a fear. I mean, quite frankly, you can turn on any news media, and there's ucky things that happen all over the world, any point in time. And I don't care which type of news media you're choosing to listen to. I mean, like there are ucky things that happen, unfortunately, to children. And so when you have a child who's predominantly nonverbal, which I empathize with 1,000,000%. Because in Elliot's case, there was a time he could not speak. I mean, Laura, you remember that. Penny, you remember that. I mean, he was not. I think by the time you rolled around, he was somewhat verbal.
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
But I mean, it was a good. Quite frankly, he was 10 before he really got to where I would say he was understandable.
Right.
Matter of fact, I know he was because it was when we had the hypoglossal done. And so there is fear that goes along with. Just having a child who cannot relay what has transpired throughout the day. And this can lead us to be extremely protective of them. And I want to be clear, protecting children is great unless it's keeping them from experiencing the normal learning curve of failure and success and interaction. And so it's one of the things that I watch because in some recent dealings as I've been going out and about, if children do not have an opportunity to interact with their normal peers, I know this is going to sound bizarre, but they will begin, there's an inability to learn appropriate behavior. Does that make sense? And so it's one of the reasons why including children with disabilities in the general education, like when you get out of school, if you have not ever learned the social norms, like Laura's making eye contact with me, she's nodding her head, giving me some cues while I'm speaking. If I have not ever been in an environment where I get that, then when I get out in the real world, I don't know how to interact with others. And quite frankly, if quote unquote neurotypical kids or typical kids have not been in an environment where you have a certain someone with a ability, disability, whatever you want to call it, they don't know how to interact either. And the best correlation I can give you is like children who have been around elderly people and children who have not been around elderly people.
I would agree with that.
Because if people have not been around elderly people, I think sometimes they view them as scary. Because we're a little, I mean, got that silver hair, we don't move quite the same way. We got some of these devices.
Wait, not we.
You are really digging yourself a hole there. You know,
That's a great look. Look at that.
You know what's great? That's a perfect time to stop right there. That's it right there. We're going to leave that be.
For now, it's hashtag everyone talking about hashtag everything. Good Sunday morning. This is hashtag everyone talking about hashtag everything. I'm Kate Doherty with the radical Mr. Ryan, the practically perfect Penny Ippenson, and the lovely Laura McReynolds. And in the last segment, we were talking.
You guys were old.
I did not, Ryan.
No,
You are not getting this ship off the rails. That is not what's happening.
You did say we, but for clarification, we are not old.
We are simply vintage.
It's the funniest thing in the world because you were such on a roll, and then I just threw that in there. He's like, okay. All right,
Yeah,
you gotta
well,
address this there.
Not only that, you were dancing about something. I usually say, I wish everyone could see Kate because she's dancing in her chair.
I was dancing
now,
on the break.
Turns out you can see Kate
Yeah.
dancing.
We were on break, so I don't think they can see me on
No.
break.
On smart, no,
They can't see me.
WGM Smart TV app.
Yeah.
They can't see us
They
during
can't.
breaks.
They can't see us during break. So I was on the
So we
break.
can still.
That means I can still provide
Make
Ryan
hand
with negative
gestures.
hand gestures
Right.
during
the
break.
break.
During the
Very
break.
nice, very
However,
nice.
my
Good to
luck,
know.
he'll like flip the camera on, and I won't be I won't even know. Like,
See, Ben Van Ness, this is what I got to deal with all the time.
he feels no sympathy
He
for
does
you.
not,
No, none whatsoever.
All right, back
okay.
to you. What
Okay,
were you
so
saying?
anyway, so the reason
Yeah,
why I was
I'm
dancing around my
excited.
chair is, well, I was kind of trying to search for like really good words to kind of continue the explanation of what I was trying to explain. So anyway, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I'm like, protectionism and people with disabilities. And so basically what it refers to, policies and practices that emphasize protecting individuals with disabilities from perceived risks and harms, often at the expense of their autonomy and right to make their own choices. While intended to safeguard individuals, protectionism can inadvertently lead to paternalistic decision-making, limiting opportunities for self-determination, and perpetuate stereotypes. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely. And see, I get hung up on the word perceived because we talked about this a couple sessions, couple shows ago.
Well, you know, tomato.
Could a Freudian slip if I said
No,
the
I
wrong
mean,
word
it
at the
kind
right time.
of is a weekly therapy session, you know. So,
But, you know, perceived. So, therefore, the adult in this situation is perceiving harm or whatever to that child.
Risk of harm, because
Risk
the
of
risk is the
harm.
word I picked
Well,
up on.
Well, but I also think though a big piece of that is that adult's anxiousness that is being pushed onto that kiddo, which then from my perspective as a therapist, I'm like, the kiddo doesn't just have their own anxiousness now. They have your anxiousness.
they've inherited.
They've inherited that anxiousness, and it's like the adult has to unpack their anxiousness before that kid can really unpack their anxiousness.
Well, and
Does
so
that make sense?
Yes,
It does.
yeah, no, it really
Totally,
does, and
yeah.
actually, it goes really well because one of the things that when it goes elaboration, like it talks about our traditional systems. Our traditional disability welfare approaches have prioritized a protectionist model leading to dependency, segregation, and institutionalization, which contrasts with the UN Convention of Rights of People with Disabilities, which emphasizes social inclusion, active citizenship, and community participation. So one of the things that you have that is happening now, and it really is happening now, because you have some things like years ago, 30 years ago, you had people setting up a system, and they were setting up a system designed to protect individuals with disabilities because there were no protections, let's face it. Like, that's just the way it was. There was nothing in place for said individuals. However, we're now like 30 years down the road, and we've begun to we know that inclusion and we know that different things can happen. We know what it looks like when we try different approaches. So now, very often, what you're finding is you're having to work almost against the system that
it's
originally
too
was
much.
because it's too much.
It's become too much.
It's become too much, and it says like what happens when you have paternalism, which is the protectionism, where individuals with disabilities are not fully trusted or empowered to make decisions about their own lives. Family members, service providers, and even government officials may make decisions on their behalf, limiting opportunities for growth and self-sufficiency. And it talks about when individuals with disabilities are overprotected, they have fewer opportunities to learn from mistakes, develop problem-solving skills, or engage in activities that contribute to their overall well-being. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Well, what happens, like, when the individual says no, say, to a medical procedure? Well, this is part of the reason why I say early intervention with children and beginning when they're when they're penny people age becomes so freaking important because you do have to teach that. I mean, like you do. Like we just got back from Mayo, and I mean, when I would be lying if I said to you when Elliot was little and we did blood draws if they were not horrific experiences. I would be lying if I was telling you that when Elliot used to get a haircut when he was little, that it wasn't a horrific experience because he hated it. I would be lying if I told you that whenever he had to go get his heart checks and they had to put all the stickers all over his heart, that those experiences with me laying full body on my child's to keep him from wiggling were not horrific experiences when he was little. And, you worried. I mean, I remembered, so his first sleep study, I thought he was going to scream down the house because they put stickers on him. And because he was a heart surgery baby, because every single time, what do doctors offer little kids every single time you go to the doctor's office?
Stickers.
Stickers. They offer them stickers. So, by the way, if you're a medical professional, side note, perhaps look into little rubber duckies or something else. Maybe we can develop a fear of ducks or something instead of stickers, because I'm here to tell you, he would no more take a sticker than the man on the moon. Now, Ella was like, give me the stickers, but she hadn't been stuck so many times. So stickers for him and the sticky, it correlated.
Became a negative.
Yeah, it became a negative. So to compensate for that, like what we would always try and do is build up on the positive. Like we tried to do fun things afterwards. We have to do this, then, we have to do this, then we get to do this. Like we're going to do this, then we go to a ball game. We're going to do this, then we go to the art museum. We do this. Oh, then we get to get French fries,
Positive reinforcement and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Every single time we tried to pair it with. And it was, I mean, I would say with any kid, that kind of thing takes a lot of work. Quite frankly, I've got a grown brother. Sorry, Jack, throwing you under the bus here. He hates going to the dentist. I probably need to work on him a little bit. If his wife's listening to the show, she's going to be like, please do so. Because he hates going to the dentist. And even as adults, we have these weird phobias. But if we don't work on them when they're littles, then when they're bigs, they do become limiting. Like, you kind of have to put them through the ringer. You have to let them behave badly, because the goal is to teach them not behave badly when they're bigger. And so, like, we just got back from Mayo, and a few years ago, Elliot put his arm out and said, I'm going to be a man, and did a blood draw, no problem. And I was like, I was in awe and in love. And so he'll do it all day long. He thinks he's Superman. His took his blood out, and boom, you can take as much blood from that kid as you want. No, nada.
Yeah.
This past time, they needed to get the echo and the EKG and do that, where it's all the stickies all over the chest. And I was like, okay, bud, you think you can do this? And when I say to you, I was kind of, and the gal came in and she used the word stickers, which it says in his file. We don't even say, that is a dirty word. That is the F-bomb in the Doherty household. Stickers, we don't say that. I said, oh no, we don't say that word, because he instantly went, it was a penny gasp. It was like on the sticker. And I said, they're sensors, Elliot, sensors, not stickers. And he's like, because we can do sensors, we just can't do stickers. And
quick
so,
save.
Anyway, it was a very quick save. And anyway, so I didn't realize that the little gal was in training. And so it wasn't just that he did it. It was that it normally takes about 30 minutes. So he was in there with all the stickies on him for an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They were teaching, which I think is wonderful.
Right.
Maybe, anyway, and again, protectionism, I'm like, maybe we
somebody else.
Maybe we should have done that
Practice on someone else, yeah.
However, on the other hand, on the flip side of that.
He did it.
He did it. He did it. And he was proud of himself, too. And it'll be easier next time.
But at the same time, I think what you're saying, it's so natural, it's innate for us to want to protect, because you remember that situation so well, of that he doesn't like all this. And so you're prepping for that, but you kept it in check so that he can just do it on his own. And he got through it. You didn't have to do anything extra. He just did it. So I think that's a you thing, but it's also a him thing.
Well, and I have some people that I work with who are like, my kid, they didn't want to do it. And I understand it, but they're a kid. They're a child. They're 7, they're 6, they're 9, they're 10. They're a little person. They're 2. Like, I'm really sorry. Like, the autonomy that I want is, I want them to have that autonomy when they grow up. So if a 2-year-old doesn't want to get a blood draw, I'm really sorry. We got to teach them to get a blood draw.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If a 3-year-old, 4-year-old doesn't want to do a sleep study, I'm really sorry. It's going to be a really miserable night, and you're going to be up all night long. but we got to get a sleep study.
So can I say something
Yep.
that I say a lot? It's like your feelings are very, very, very important. Your feelings are you don't want to. Or the 2-year-old is showing his feelings very outwardly.
Very outwardly. Very outwardly.
But the brain gets to trump the feelings in that situation. The brain is the logic, and the logic is you have to learn how to do this. You have to get blood drawn. There is no other choice other than the logic is it has to get done.
Well, and
Feelings are great. I'm not saying feelings are not important because everybody's like, everything's about feelings. I get it. Feelings are natural. They don't get to make this decision. They need to be in the back seat, and the logic is to make the decision.
Well, and I work really, 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 really hard on this with our families and with people I meet to try and help them understand this, because the reality is I understand holding that 2-year-old is really uncomfortable. I do get that. You know what I mean? And talking them through it like it's here, I love you, and they're screaming the house down, and they're kicking, and they're wailing, and they're all those different things. But what I'm going to tell you is it's so much more difficult if it's a grown adult that has to be placed in restraints.
Right.
yes.
Like
Good point.
that is because that little person who, yes, it's uncomfortable there, but when they're 6'4" or 5'11" and 280, like it's a whole different thing. And then that really makes me sad. And I've been around those situations enough that, anyway, I guess.
Well, and I think just, again, this is where my mind goes to it, is like, you know, the twins are 2, going to be 3 coming up here. And like when we went and did like all the different, you know, shots, vaccines, all that stuff, when they were even itty bittier, right? When they were, you know, just had turned 1 or whatever, I didn't love the fact that, you know, the doctor's like, okay, hold their arms and like essentially
Right.
hold them down
Right.
because
Yes.
they're babies and we're going to stick them with a needle. And then they did. And of course they scream bloody murder because they don't know what's going on. But then you're right there to comfort them. And then the funny thing is like, again, you got to do what you got to do. It's not apples to apples with exactly what you're saying,
No.
but
It's very similar.
it's one of those things where you have to do it. And yeah, I didn't love it. But then after the fact, you're like, oh, you did so well. Like, can you positive reinforce it? Where now, again, they're going to be 3. Yes, they don't like going and getting shots. Nobody does. But they'll walk around the house and go, Daddy, I give you a shot. Daddy, like it's a normal thing for them. They play doctor.
That's good.
It's part of hey, I've done this before. Now it's just normal. Daddy, I give you shot. Daddy, I give you shot, and it's just whatever. To kind of go back to what you're saying, that it's just this is what we do. Yes, it sucks. Yeah, it might not be the greatest, but we got to do it. And then you give the positive reinforcement after the fact. And again, you also get to be the parent that's like, hey, Daddy's always here to help you.
Yes.
Like, even though it sucks, even though the pain's there, I'm here to help you. And then that also triggers probably a whole
Yeah.
other subject.
No,
but
but
it's one of those things, too.
it absolutely is. And that's where, I mean, because here's the deal. And
And
Ryan,
mommy, too. I want to put that, and mommy,
Well,
too.
and Ryan, to your point, I mean, I know parents of typical children who are like, oh, I couldn't make them do that. Okay, but they're 2.
Right.
They're 3. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but now's the time to make them do that, because if you don't, whether they're typical or a person with a disability, it isn't going to be a lot of fun when they're 16, 26, 36. Sorry.
But what you're also saying is it's not about you.
Right, exactly.
You say you can't do that. That's all about you. This isn't about you anyway. This is about what the kid needs. So you have to put the you aside to do what's best for the kid.
Right.
And then to piggyback off of what you said, Ryan, I mean, those kids are now prancing around the house, like practicing giving shots because you showed it to them that it's a positive thing. You didn't show your stress and your anxiousness and your worry, which was all very legitimate that you have it,
Sure.
but you didn't show it to them. And so now they're like, oh, ha, 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 you
It's
know,
okay,
and they're just
yeah.
all happy with it
Yep.
because of how you handled it.
Yeah, well, and part of that is it's okay to, you know, be afraid, or it's okay to
Absolutely.
be, you know what I mean? As a parent, when you're holding your kid, just like, oh my gosh, I wish they'd quit screaming. You know what I mean?
Or
Like,
you think, where's the other parent? Get him in here. Why's
yeah,
he not in here?
yeah, shout out. Tony Doherty has not participated in a lot of medical visits. I mean, I've done it on the radio. I've thrown him under the bus on the radio before. Like, full disclosure, like, kids get called to the principal's office. It's like, don't call mom, call dad. I mean, legit. And they're all... So, yeah, our principal's so on to my kids. They're like, no, we're calling your mom.
Oh, really?
They should just be glad they don't have to call their grandfather. That's all I got to say. Doo-doo, boom.
Oh, there it is.
Although they aren't scared. Just FYI. Like growing up, you know, my dad with those blue eyes, he could put the fear of God into you.
But these are his grand.
Oh yeah, they have no fear. Oh no, no fear,
It's
none.
different.
Totally different. It's a bunch of junk, if you ask me. But anyway, for now, this is hashtag everyone talking about hashtag everything. Good Sunday morning. This is hashtag everyone talking about hashtag everything. I'm Kate Doherty with the lovely Laura McReynolds, the practically perfect Penny Ipson, and the radically rat Ryan.
I wonder why you did it in a different order.
Like, so
We
just
have
so
fun
you
on break,
it-
don't
we,
we?
yeah, we do have fun on break. But anyway, he might be a little ornery. But anywho, okay,
He gets
back
some
to
good zingers.
yeah. So back to the
The topic at hand.
topic at hand.
Protectionism.
Yes, it was protected. But anyway, while we were on break, while some people were, I don't know, what's the word I want to use?
I was
Well,
getting
some people-
spicy with you?
Oh, yeah, we spicy with me. Oh, yeah.
okay, yeah.
Penny was getting
I was
spicy
pulling-
with me.
I was pulling friend mode.
She was. Anyway.
And I'm not ashamed.
So while she was getting all spicy on me, there are 5 barriers for people with disabilities. Attitudinal, which is kind of that whole bubble we're talking about. Communication.
Stop. What are you laughing about? What are you doing?
They are a mess.
Stop it. What are you doing?
Ryan,
I
behave
didn't do
yourself.
anything. I'm just making sure she's okay.
She is
She
okay.
hasn't stopped. This is
she's-
like a whole 5 minutes of her just laughing.
She's allowed to laugh.
No, she is allowed to laugh, but I can't take you seriously. I'm in the corner just like dying.
You can take me seriously.
Not in this moment.
Well, okay. Well, then
Penny, you're
just
crying. Are you okay?
Stop.
now
So
there are
this is
people
what
listening
happens
on the
at my
radio
house.
show. Okay. Okay. What
Okay,
happens
so
to your
this
house?
is a big thing in my house. Wait,
Yes.
is she crying yet? Is she crying yet? Because I laughed so hard, I'll start crying. So yeah, carry on.
Okay. Anywho, you know.
Start over with number 1, would you?
No, so I am. FYI, that's very interesting that you cry when you laugh. Do you cry a lot otherwise?
No.
That's how
Okay.
it gets out. That should come out
Just
somehow.
Wait a
FYI.
minute. I just
So-
felt like I'm having a therapy session.
So here's the deal. I actually thought about this. I don't know what my kids will ever do, like if they see me cry. Because literally the only time I ever cry is like if I'm at church. Like
Oh,
they
do you get
they-
moved by the music? I get
Yeah,
moved.
yeah. I get moved by
I
the
can
music.
get emotional. that way.
So either, and then I have weird tears. You know, some people cry when they're sad or when they're mad or when they're no. I mean, I'm dry as dry can be.
Just built different.
Now weirdly, extreme
What are you doing?
extreme happiness will make me cry. She's crying, and I didn't do it. So anywho, let's go back, Laura, let's talk about this.
Well,
1
you
through
guys have a
5.
little chit-chat,
Could
yeah.
you start over with 1?
Okay,
Conversation.
so there are 5 barriers commonly for people with disabilities. They are attitudinal, communication, physical, policy, and social that participate in their daily life. I'm just going to continue doing whatever it is I do. You guys
I am
continue
listening.
laughing. All right, so attitudinal actually is kind of our second mission for Downcountry, and that's where the attitudinal barriers stem from negative social attitudes and biases such as stereotypes, prejudice, discrimination, which lead to exclusion and limited opportunities, which is why the second mission of Downcountry, well, Penny giggles, is that
Ryan's
we
got his back to
change
us. It's
what
hilarious.
need to have it.
Trying to avoid that.
Which means that finish your sentence.
Which is why we have the second mission, which is to change the way people view individuals with disabilities. Well, live streaming seemed like a good idea, people, but you know, now there's that. So, anywho, okay. So then you also have the communication barriers, which we were talking about. And communication barriers, I do understand, because if you have protectionism for hashtag every child, then when a child has an inability to communicate, it increases those, because that child can't come home and just tell you what kind of a day they had.
Right.
Which I would argue is the reason why you need sign sooner, we need AAC sooner, we need all these different pieces in place sooner. But those do become barriers. And quite frankly, think about it. If you couldn't speak right now, like you two would be a mess.
We'd be screwed.
Totally and thoroughly, because when you have an inability to communicate, it results in bad behavior or nonsensical behavior, perhaps.
Well, before you even go any further, honestly, and I'm not trying to derail anything. So, in the very beginning of the show, in that first segment, you had talked about, of course, having a para or someone with your child all the time. And in general, again, there are sometimes it's a necessity, sometimes it isn't. I guess where
if a child is a harm to himself or others, then either
Sure.
you need a parent that will exclude them
Right.
from being in the general education environment. However, if that is not the case, then we really do need to try and back that off and let the child have some autonomy to the fullest extent that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that means understanding the child's diagnoses, i.e., many children with autism, Down syndrome, other disabilities see the world in a very black and white manner. Right. That means unstructured play is the most difficult time for them to be included in the classroom. Yeah. Now, ironically, what is the time that most places try and include children with disabilities?
Gym.
During unstructured time, where the rules are totally ambiguous. Their justification for that, again, going back to protectionism, is, it's during a non-academic time, and during academic time they need, hold on. During academic time, the children actually should be butts in the seat. Period. Point blank.
And it goes back to what you were saying, learning how to do that when you're little.
Yes.
Whether it's in a restaurant or in a classroom or in church.
Yes.
Learning how, and neurotypical or not neurotypical.
And it's the
Learning
exposure.
it as little is a whole lot easier than learning as big.
And so, again, to put all that together, again, it just brings me, again, to my situation. Again, my twins are going to be 3, and the fact that they are Miss Independent, they can do whatever they you know what I mean? They have the mindset no, Daddy, I'm doing this. Don't help me. There's a part of it where it's it's frustrating because okay,
And there's a
independent.
there's a part
I
where
will
it's
say,
cute.
the more you breed independence in your child, it will increase your frustration level.
Oh,
It
it
will
will.
also at times increase your embarrassment level. I mean, I would lie if I say I haven't ever been embarrassed, because heck yeah, I have. On the other hand, it's the Holy Grail.
What I mean is again, it's still very important. And so it goes back to what you're saying again. Yes, there are certain situations where you need that help of whatever capacity that is for any given kid. But the independent factor is for instance, we come home and the girls like to be naked babies. That's just what they like to do. They come home, they like to be naked babies. So I've started, it doesn't happen all the time, but again, I keep reminding myself they're only 2, so they'll get there, where they take their clothes off and they put it in the dirty clothes bin where it's supposed to be. Where do you put your shoes? What do you do, and this and that. And it took a while, and every once in a while they'll do it, and they'll just do it by themselves. Now there are times where they're kids and they like to test the boundaries and they won't do it or whatever. And again, you just reinforce.
And then you say, come on back.
It
You're
is
gonna
what it
get
is, right? But it's kind of trying to teach that. Also, when we're done eating, hey, could you... There's been times where they put their own stuff in the sink, and I didn't even tell them, and they're 2. You know what I mean? It's just little things like that. So again, the independence, while it can be frustrating, it's important.
Yeah, I will say my parents were genius. So we always ate dinner at a kitchen table. And so my brother, from the time as little as I can, our job was to clear the table, which meant putting dishes in the sink, which evolves into doing dishes and loading the dishwasher and doing those. I have a bar, a breakfast bar, which is where we eat supper all the time. It's great, and I enjoy it while I'm cooking and, feeding people at my trough. However, when it came to the whole family, hey kids, let's because when you're standing there, my sink is right behind. So I just take the plates from everybody and I put it in the sink. So I feel like my children have missed a fundamental part of growing up.
2 hands, if anyone of my family's listening.
Yeah. I mean, carry with 2 hands.
on
don't
each
they?
side of the
and I'm
plate.
like, man, I really messed up. And then Ella's like, man, you know what? I'll do laundry all day long, but I hate doing dishes. To which my reply is when have you ever done them, child? I bet she's right. I was on the laundry piece, Ryan. I let the table thing go.
How dare you?
Didn't teach her when she was little, and now,
No.
that teenager
I
doesn't
am.
want to do it.
I think there's something to be said about short-term stress for long-term gain.
Absolutely.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Absolutely.
Because you do. It's short-term stress. It's a short-term issue, but it's for a long-term gain.
Yeah. And I think that if you want to ease the angst, because what nobody told me, and Mom and Dad, you should have told me this. As your children get older, Ryan, like what you're enjoying right now, it's amazing because you have all the control.
Right.
You have all the control. That whole protectionism thing, like the stage of life that you're in with your littles, you have all the control. The stage of life Penny, Laura, and soon to be me are in, and I'm kind of like, I'm like on the verge. I'm on the cusp. I got the 25 to the 15, so I'm kind of like teetering.
Teeter-totter back
I'm
and forth,
teeter-tottering. But what you have to do when your children are adults is you have to respect their autonomy totally. And I mean, that's
fun
hard.
time.
And like when I look at respecting Elliot's autonomy, I mean, it is the same. It's different, but it is the same. And I have a friend of mine has a beautiful young man who'll be graduating this year with Down syndrome, and they're navigating what that is going to look like for him because he's very social, but he's probably not quite ready for a John Wood Community College. But what do you so how do you honor his autonomy, help him prepare, and because that's going to look a little different for everybody. In Elliot's case, I'm pretty lucky. There are some things that realistically we'll work on after he graduates.
Right.
But there are things that he wants to do. I mean, he wants to have a job. He wants to drive a car. So do I know if he can drive a car or not? Nope, don't know. I also know that developmentally he's still, let's give it a few. I also know there are programs by which you can look and learn and see. Do I think I really want to ride with him to St. Louis? Probably not. Do I think at some point I would be totally comfortable driving from my house into Palmyra or, some of our smaller towns around here? Yeah, I do. And so, or that's the hope. Do I know if it'll happen? Nope. Am I going to do everything in my power to kind of try and prep that way? Yeah. Does it sometimes scare the ever-loving bejesus out of me? Yep. However, what I'm going to tell you is my oldest is getting ready to get married, and I'm so excited, and I'm also so terrified. Like, it's a wonderful, terrifying, does that make sense? I love the guy they're getting married to, but I also know after being married 20 years, there's all kinds of stuff that happens when you're married. Holy smoke and rollies, right? I mean... right? I mean, Laura's over here laughing. I mean, and you want to protect your kid, but they're going to lose friends. There's going to be good things that are going to happen. There's going to be bad things that are going to happen. There's going to be struggles. There's going to be great joys. There's going to be these extremes. And then it kind of goes back to the very point of this whole thing but isn't that the full life experience?
Yes. That they get to have. That they get to have.
And
you get to observe.
And it's my
as you
hope
get
and my
older.
prayer for people with disabilities that if we begin to do our job right here in the tri-states, and we begin to kind of work together and help them fully actualize and make mistakes and allow them a broader access to our community, to our churches, to our lives in general, that things will be better for #everyone.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. How close are we?
It's that time.
It's
Nice.
that time. I knew
I was
going to
say,
it.
dang,
I was
that was a
hoping,
great ending.
See, I
If
was
you're-
hoping God was going to bring it in. He does it every time.
Wrap it up.
Anyway, hey, before we go, I do want to say we really are excited to be able to live stream this. Huge thank you to the team at WGM for making this happen, and also to Ryan and Penny and Laura for agreeing to do this each and every Sunday. So
What we do.
I know,
What we do.
So we
Hashtag
can't.
child.
There we go. Yeah. We all dressed alike.
and we didn't even know it. Anyway,
Not
y'all
planned.
have a blessed week. This is #everyone talking about #everything. See you Sunday.